Bunker Hill Community College is inspiring dreams through academic excellence, community engagement, and workforce partnerships. Learn more at bhcc.edu.
What happens when three brothers shoot the breeze under an old, wide tree? That's the premise of Hang Time, Pulitzer Prize finalist Zora Howard's latest work, making its Boston debut at Emerson's Paramount Center. The play is a poetic, haunting meditation on masculinity, brotherhood, and vulnerability. Zora joins us now. It's so nice to see you, Zora. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So Hang Time opens with three Black men. They find themselves suspended under this tree in a kind of timeless space. What drew you to that image, and what does it symbolize for you?
That's a great question. I think it's an image of violence. These men are suspended under this tree, their lives having been flattened. And what inspired it was the story of two brothers, Malcolm Harsh and Robert Fuller, back in 2020, who had their lives taken. And upon coming across those news stories, which were very brief, I couldn't stop thinking about the lives they led up until that point, up until their untimely ends, and how there was so little coverage on that. There was a little bit about, their families, their dreams, all of the things that might have been ahead of them. And I was thinking a lot about this legacy of racialized violence in our country, and how it is perpetually, with us.
Mm-hmm. That strange fruit.
That strange fruit. And wanting to center the men, wanting to center their lives and not their death without looking away from the violence, forcing us to confront the violence and spend time with it, but not without considering these men and their full lives. So that's really the inspiration of the concept and that first image that you walk in on.
And what does this teach us about Black male identity and Black male brotherhood?
Oh, I'm not sure if it's trying to teach anything, but just invite us to listen, to bear witness, to pay attention, to really look and consider. I keep on using the word consider because these men's, their bodies are the set piece. It is the design of the play. So to look closely and see brothers, like you said, to see fathers and husbands and good friends, and just to spend time with them. Maybe that's the teaching, to be open to spending time with these Black men.
What keeps us from doing that when these things, like the incidents that you describe, happen in real life?
We want to look away. We don't want to consider our own complicity in this violence, in this perpetual violence. It's more comfortable, it's easier to walk past, keep on walking by. But we really do a disservice to ourselves and to these men and women and children, all who are victims of racialized violence in this country. And it really obstructs us from any path forward of healing the violence or the wounds from the violence.
Now, obviously, this is a very visceral image, right? When we think about the history of lynching of Black men in the U.S. And some people might say, why are we resurfacing that imagery in any way? But what would be your response to that?
It's not resurfacing. Resurfacing would suggest that it was buried somewhere, that it's not in plain sight for us right now in 2025. A couple of weeks ago, DeMartravian Reed was found hanging in Mississippi. That's not resurfacing. That's, within this month. And it's a folly for any of us to think that this is something of our past, of a different time, of a different part or specific part of this country. This is right now. It's extremely urgent. And for us to think that it is not, that is a great danger.
Mm-hmm. You've noted how your inspiration for this has come from your own relationships with men in your family, your brothers, your cousins, your father. How did you think about them when you were writing this?
I mean, these are the men I grew up with, and their voices, their laughter, just always with me. It's in my head. So just, you know, being in the corner of the room when they think they're having private moments, and I'm hearing some of the banter and the back and forth and the way that they talk when it's just them, when it's men amongst men. Having the privilege of being privy to some of that, and then, being inspired to fill in as well. They're very present in the play, even though, I'm not necessarily writing these characters specifically after any one person in my life. I think they are composite characters of so many of the men and souls that I've known in my walk.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, when we think about theater, right, and people who maybe stereotypically go to theater, we may not necessarily see that being as accessible to Black men. But how do you hope that this opens or changes that stereotype, and invites more Black men to be part of this art?
I always thought about Hang Time being, yes, a theatrical piece, but also something that could happen on a street corner or, in the center of a park, on a basketball court. It's the work of the institutions. We have a lot of work to do in making sure the doors are open and encouraging folks to come inside. But I hope once they get through those doors that they see themselves, that they feel cared for, considered, that there's a deep appreciation for these men written into the story and the characters of this piece.
Have you heard or spoken with any Black men who saw this and what their thoughts were afterwards?
Absolutely. I mean, yes to audience members, and then yes to, there's been a number of actors who have come through the piece, all Black men, of course. And so just it's really rewarding to speak with them and to hear the words on them, because, obviously when I'm writing it, it's just happening in my head. But to hear it animated and to see it animated, they know these men. That's kind of the feedback I get. They know these men. These are their uncles, and their barbers. They see themselves in it, and that's the biggest reward, I think, when I get to talk to folks after the show.
Mm-hmm. So you have already toured with Hang Time nationally. We've got a real treat, obviously, with it making its Boston debut. But where do you see this going in the future?
As many places as possible. I think Hang Time is an American play. I say that often, that this legacy is not specific to one place or time. It's all time, all places, particularly in this country. And so every city that would have us, I'd like us to be there. Internationally, if they'd have us, I'd like us to be there.
Have you already taken this to the South at all?
Yeah.
How are you thinking about that?
We would love that to happen, and it's not for lack of trying. It is still something that we need folks to say yes, and to be open to hosting us and making the play, working with us, collaborating with us to make the play happen. But nothing. The South is not off the table. That's what I'll say. We'll continue working to try to get this play as many places as we can.
Mm-hmm. So as a playwright and director, what kind of stories do you feel called to do next? And how might the work that you've done on Hang Time inform those stories?
I just want to continue telling the truth in the way that I can, in the way that I understand and observe the truth. I love working with rich, dynamic, complicated characters. That's really at the center of all that I do, no matter what the story is, that I'm usually first drawn to the character. I'm a Black woman. I'm telling Black stories. I don't think there's more to it than that.
Mm-hmm. And how do you hope that stories like the one you tell with Hang Time influence American theater at large? I
think, yes, there is the concept. Yes, there is confronting what is, uncomfortable, what we have a hard time confronting or would rather not confront, the stuff that, the dirty stuff, the nasty stuff that is not so pleasant to sit with. I think Hang Time is also trying something subversive with form. It's not, your traditional, straightforward play. It's a little bit more experimental in its form. And I think we want more room for experimental work. We want more room for experimental work by people of color. We want more experimental, right? We need to kind of break down the traditions and the structured systems that tell us expressing has to look like this. Storytelling has to come in this format for it to be marketable or sellable, or whatever the case may be. There is a time and place for that as well, but there's obviously a time and place for stories like Hang Time, and we just need to make more of it. We kind of like, nudging ourselves in there. We get in the crack. We just need to push the space open wider, because I feel like that's, for me at least, as a theater goer, that's the stuff that makes me want to lean in. That's the stuff that moves me and changes me and inspires me. And I know I'm not the only one writing these stories and building these kinds of plays, so we just need to make more room. There's enough room for all of us.
Well, Zora, thank you so much for sharing your vision and your voice with us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I hope you come see the show.